Hi, everybody. It's Sarah Lauk, the host of Unmuzzled, a podcast, all things animals, all the time. And some of my favorite animals are coming up, pigs. For those of you that know me and listen to this podcast, you know that I grew up with pet pigs. Unfortunately, and we're going to talk to April and Phoebe about this, my parents latched on to the potbelly pig craze and rescued a mama pig after they adopted one. And I hate to say adopted because I feel like that fad, people were buying them. But my parents took such great care of those pigs. And in fact, our family pet pig that we got when he was small waited for me to get, I'm going to cry thinking about this, waited for me to get home from college to die so I could say goodbye. And it just, pigs are such special animals, and I can't wait to talk to April and Phoebe about this because it is their entire life, and they now have a pig rescue, and it's incredible work. Presenting sponsors, please stop me from this crying mess here. Thank you so much to our presenting sponsors. Yukta Fence is a family-owned, trusted provider of high-quality fencing solutions with over 57 years of experience. They take pride in protecting what you love the most and give back to rescues, shelters, and humane societies through their partnerships. They give you a free, no-obligation estimate and use the highest quality materials. For transparency and peace of mind, visit Yukta Fence for all your fencing needs. Canine Cruise is the place to take your pet. They offer dog and cat boarding, dog daycare, pet retail, and mindful day school. Tons of indoor space with a huge yard. Canine Cruise is your one-stop shop for professional pet care in Chicago. Kiki's Korner Natural Pet Foods in downtown Winfield, just a block south of CDH Hospital and the railroad tracks. Kiki's has all your food and health aid needs for dogs and cats. Kiki's Korner for a healthy, happy pet. Sniffing out a new vet? Bond Vet is a new breed of vet care that offers everything from primary care to walk-in urgent care visits. And right now, they've got a special treat for our listeners. You can use code UNMUZZLED to get $50 off your pet's first visit by booking at bondvet.com. That's code UNMUZZLED at BONDVET.com for $50 off. Thank you, presenting sponsors. So important to support those small businesses that support me and this podcast and get us on the air. Please, if you have fencing needs, if you need pet care, if you need dog treats, support all of those amazing, amazing businesses. I'm going to introduce everybody at once. This is April, the founder of Chicagoland Pig Rescue, and Phoebe, who is the co-director. Phoebe, we're going to get back to you very soon, but please just hold on. Yeah, I cannot wait. Hi, April. So nice to meet you.
It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you so much.
Yes. So, first of all, we were talking about your logo. I just wanted to show everybody the coolest logo ever. Sorry, let me remove that banner so you can. I just love this, and you and I were talking because I always say, like, when you have a good logo, you're sure to sell great merchandise because people are so attracted to that. Just very unique. So tell us how this all started, because you know, starting a pig rescue and then maintaining it. Now you're about to celebrate 5 years. You just celebrated 300 pigs saved. I mean, that's incredible. How did this all start?
So it started with my husband and I. When we were dating, we found out that we both growing up had always wanted like a pet pig. And that was something that we would always both beg our parents for, individually. We didn't know each other at the time, obviously. But then when we were dating, we realized this. And we're like, well, now we're the adults. Like we can have a pet pig if we want. So we got our first companion animal, I'll say, Ruby, who she is such a little spitfire. And just from having Ruby and becoming a pig mom, it put such a fire in my belly. Like I had just this mama bear strength that I felt in my heart and in my belly to rescue other pigs. Once you step into the world of pigs, you realize very quickly just how many of them are in need, desperate need, both large breed pigs and small breed pigs. And so, just going down the rabbit hole of being in all the Facebook groups and, Instagram, following all the Instagram groups, I realized this is what I'm going to do.
I mean, it's pretty incredible, to be honest with you, to say, almost 5 years, you've rescued 300 pigs with no, and I hate to say brick and mortar, but no sanctuary. So you really are relying on people and these, and I want to talk about the micro sanctuary because I think it's so interesting, like reading that on your website. It's awesome. But that alone is really hard because you have to really rely on humans that understand pigs, or at least be able to like listen to you and let you, you relay information. That's not easy. So how does this all work?
Yeah, so basically when we were starting, I realized, okay, we don't have like 100 acres that I like wish we had. We don't have a few different things that like a traditional sanctuary would have, but I didn't want that to stop me from doing something. So I was thinking, what is the most that I can do with what I have at this time? And number one, it was just a lot of energy for the cause. And really what it manifested into is we are kind of like what I call like boots on the ground, like first responders. So we pick up the pigs from where they need to be rescued. We get them vet care, we foster them, and then we find them new homes. And then oftentimes too, we also transport them to those new homes as well. So we're trying to take a lot of the heavy lifting in the beginning off of the sanctuary's plates, and kind of handle that so that it, can hopefully open up a spot to a pig either at a sanctuary or a private adopter. So we do work with both. We have sanctuary partners and a lot of great private adopters as well. So yeah, fostering and kind of working it like remotely became kind of the way that we troubleshooted, like how are we going to make this work without an actual like brick and mortar facility. I also do have 6 pigs living with me at home. So we kind of call those our like, and Phoebe has a pig as well. So we call them like our CPR, like residents, essentially. But yeah, most of, the 300 plus pigs that we've saved, we've then rehomed.
Which, I mean, wow. I'm going to bring Phoebe in. So obviously, April, I know because, when I started Live Like Rue, it was really just me. And then you realize, like, once you get deep into it, like, you need help. And I think, again, if you listen to this podcast, I preach this, like, as soon as you get more people to help you, it's when you explode, when you say, okay, I cannot do all this, because initially you're just like, I want to save all the pigs, I want to do all the transport, I want to put them in homes. But so how does Phoebe then come into play here as co-director?
Yeah, so kind of similar story, starting off as April, where I rescued my own pig Hadley in 2017, and started diving into all the social media groups, and pretty quickly saw the need that there was to rescue pigs and all the other little things that go into that. So setting up transports, fundraising for rescues and sanctuaries, networking for pigs in need, kind of a little bit of everything. And I started jumping into rescue, helping some local and I guess not as local sanctuaries and rescues, doing what I could, which was kind of organizing transport through the, on social media and helping find people to fill in legs, doing transport of my own, helping to raise money for rescues and sanctuaries. And I ended up meeting April on a transport for Oinking Acres, which is a rescue and sanctuary in Brownsburg, Indiana. April did the first part of the trip and passed off the pig to me. And then I did the last part of the trip. And that's kind of how we met, started talking, becoming friends. And April kind of filled me in on her dream of starting Chicagoland Pig Rescue and getting a network going within this area for pigs in need.
I mean, honestly, perfect, right? So Phoebe,
Right.
where do you live?
I'm in Oswego, Illinois.
Okay, cool. So that's great. I mean, and I was reading, your website, like transport is key a lot of the times. You guys obviously focus on the Midwest, but if you can get legs of a transport filled, which I used to do for dogs, and you can get a pig that desperately needs help to you, and then you find the foster. So April, I would love for you to, well, first of all, Phoebe, what is it like to have a pig in your house? Because I know that people right now listening are like, how do these people have pigs in their house? But they're actually cleaner than dogs. They're a lot smarter than most animals. So just tell us what it's like to have a pet pig.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy when I meet someone and they know I have a pet pig, I guess, because I'm so used to it now, but it was definitely a big learning curve to start. I feel like I knew more than maybe most people going in, but still not anywhere to what I should have known. So I get a lot of questions in regards to where she goes to the bathroom, which she goes outside just like a dog. Because of their cognitive level, she was a bazillion times easier to train to go outside. She learned in about 2 days, and I've trained puppies that we had growing up that were a lot harder than that. But so she goes to the bathroom outside. She eats food that looks similar to dog food. It just has lower sodium and protein in the morning and the evening, just like most dogs do. Gets fruits and veggies to supplement. And then actually my Hadley has her own bedroom. So she sleeps in there at night, puts herself to bed quite early. She loves her sleep. Right now she's in front of the fireplace because in the winter they tend to sleep a lot more as she's not a big fan of the cold, even though she is happy that it's getting a little bit warmer out. But like you said, very clean. It's kind of a misconception that pigs are dirty, but they out in the wild, even when they're going to the bathroom, they kind of make a set bathroom place and a set place to sleep and everything else. They don't kind of mix where other animals might do so. So super clean. She just will use mud as kind of skin protectant since pigs don't sweat and can get sunburn. So keeps her cool and is skin protectant. So it's kind of like having a toddler in your house because you have to pig proof everything from your drawers and everything in my kitchen. And when I first got her, had food in a certain area in the kitchen. I had to move that quick, and pretty sure every day she checks in that same cabinet just to make sure I didn't, re-slip some treats in there.
That's hilarious. I just love it. So, I will say, I'm very honest on this podcast. My dad would bring the pet pig into the house and my mom would freak out. So the pigs, we had a barn and the pigs lived in the barn, but they had like, a heat lamp, hay, like they were treated like family. And then my dad would sneak the pot-bellied pig in, when my mom wasn't looking.
Love that.
Yeah. But April, for you, I mean, you have 5 pigs in your house. You obviously rescue farm pigs, I guess is what I will call them. But you also rescue pot-bellied pigs, probably when people get in over their head or just don't want them anymore. So how do you find the pigs that you want to rescue?
So yeah, like you said, it is a mixture of both large breed and small breed. Unfortunately now, as we're getting way busier, just because people know about us more, we're getting more emails and calls. We cannot take on every case like we used to be able to. So that's really hard, but we do supply people with resources. We don't just say no, like we have a resource list and a list of like next steps, do's and don'ts, stuff like that we can give people. So right now we basically are taking on cases that are like emergency based. And with, I will say something that might be a little bit different between dog rescue and like farmed animal rescue is there are so many cases that end up being life or death where we get a call and it's like, well, this pig is going to be shot if you don't come pick up this pig, things like that where we're really looking at, okay, like which is the pig that's in the most need, which is the ones that are life and death. We, as I said, we rescue both potbellies, people from all different situations. So people, sometimes people just can't keep them because their life changes, they get a divorce, or we've also rescued pigs that their owner is fleeing like a domestic violence situation and they don't have anywhere for the pigs to go. So we step in and try to alleviate, that concern for them. With large breed pigs, we really are saving pigs from slaughter. We rescue what's called truck jumpers. These are pigs that are essentially meat industry survivors. And also pigs that people get for like backyard butchering. So it's not just the large factory farms, but the smaller farms as well that people are getting pigs to butcher them. And sometimes we're able to intervene and save their lives. So a wide variety of cases that we're working with here. And honestly, every case has some sort of detail that's surprising to us that we've never seen before. So it's always a matter of like figuring out and troubleshooting new problems all the time. So
yeah, and I think I always say this because it happened to us too. When you become more popular, you kind of want the donations and want the help and want the fosters and want the Amazon wish list to be filled. But what ends up happening, and of course it does, is more people need you, to save more. So I always say, kind of be careful what you wish for, because I know that saying no, it kills me every day. And I'm sure it hurts you guys too. And you have to, unfortunately, be selective and take, obviously like a domestic violence situation is going to outweigh somebody surrendering their pig. It's just the way it is, because that's kind of what you make your mission. I guess too, when you look at the future, I assume you would love to have, a huge farm with a lot of acres to have all of these pigs. Is that kind of the hope eventually?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the avenues that we really want to explore and see if it's possible for us. We would love acreage. We always say we don't have it yet, but when we do, we have all sorts of plans. But I do think it's important, like I kind of mentioned before, this idea of not waiting and doing what you can with what you have in the moment. And I really like to emphasize that because I think sometimes people say, well, I would love to do this, but, and then they have like a whole bunch of different reasons. And I'm like, if you troubleshoot that and problem solve, you could actually do so much more than you give yourself credit for that you think you can. And I think that's also where like micro sanctuaries come in to play as well. This idea that you don't have to give up your whole life and have 100 acres in order to be an animal advocate or to save pigs. And one of the really nice things about pigs is that you can have them in your home. And so as far as like the farm, out of all the farmed animals, pigs you can have for a micro sanctuary, because you can, you just have to check your zoning ordinance, but you can, live with a pig in your house where you couldn't necessarily like live with a horse in your house, right? But I think micro sanctuaries are a really powerful way to frame when you have a companion pig, because it's taking the speciesism out of it, and it's not saying like, what is this pet gonna do for me? It's saying I'm adopting a companion where we're gonna share our living space, and I'm creating a sanctuary zone out of like my house or my apartment that I have. And like, you have that ability to declare your living space like a sanctuary for beings, and like, how powerful is that? So that's something that we always really love to talk about.
And right now I'm going, hey, husband, we can be a sanctuary. Because that is brilliant. I mean, it is brilliant. It really is. And to say it that way, I think it's so important. You don't have to have, you don't even have to have an acre. You just need some space to put the pig in your house. So let's be real, and maybe Phoebe, you can answer this a little bit about, the micro sanctuary, which I think we would also call fostering, maybe if it was related to a dog. And maybe it's not, so please correct me. But how, like, who's adopting the pigs, I guess, is my biggest question. Like, and again, I know it goes with zoning, like Chicago, anybody can have whatever they want, right?
Right.
When I'm in Arlington Heights, that might be like a bigger problem for me. But who's adopting them? How long are they usually in the micro sanctuary? Does it depend more on like what kind of pig it is? Because if it's 150 pounds, it's one thing. If it's, a 40-pound pot-bellied pig, that's probably different. So how does the micro sanctuary work, and who's adopting are my two questions, I think, there.
Sure. So actually, like, it kind of depends on how someone would set up their micro sanctuary. So April technically is a micro sanctuary with her 6 pigs, but those are her forever pigs. And then she has a foster area, kind of a stall in her basement for emergency needs. My Hadley, my pig Hadley, will be with me forever. But we have foster partnerships throughout the Midwest, and the length of time kind of just depends on the situation. So we will have some fosters who are set up more for baby piglets, and they might have those piglets a couple months in, their apartment in Chicago, but then the pig really outgrows that spot. So within those couple months, we're working to find them a forever home. Or we might have some other foster partnerships where they have more land, some acreage and fencing set up, and they're able to, long-term foster for us. Or maybe they're a sanctuary of their own, and we partner with them, and they save kind of a foster area for a Chicagoland pig rescue to work with them. Sometimes that happens as well. But our adopters, our private adopters are really wide in range. So we will have private adopters that adopt indoor pigs, where still, even if the pig's indoors, they need adequate outdoor time. Always. Pigs, like we said, are toddlers. Their cognitive level is like a 3-4-year-old, and they need that outdoor time to stimulate their minds and be active and root and graze and be a pig, even if they are sleeping indoors at night. So we'll have, like I said, those adopters that have pigs that are indoors during, a lot during the winter, during night, but then might have that outdoor time during the day. It might just be a backyard. But like you mentioned, you definitely have to check your ordinance. A lot of times ordinances are very outdated. So they see pigs as only livestock, unfortunately. We have helped some people fight their ordinances. And usually if you do kind of contest it, a lot of times you can win just because of how outdated they are. However, it is kind of a process. So you always want to check and make sure and get it in writing, not just, over the phone. But unincorporated areas, it works out really well for pigs. Other times we will have adopters that the pig is solely outdoors. So the adopter might have like a shed in their backyard that they have insulated and made, that leads out into a pasture, a fenced in pasture for their pigs. Or they might have some more land, if they are, a lot of times more south of us, in Illinois, they'll get, be able to have some more land and have a barn and might have some other animals too. It's very difficult, unfortunately, for those large breed pigs. Like April mentioned, they're most vulnerable because those are the pigs that people consider food a lot, but also they need more space than a small breed pig. So they can't just usually live in the house, and need more room to roam and graze and be a pig. So we kind of work with a variety of adopters.
I love that. Like, it's so cool. What you guys do is so cool. But I know, April, it's not always fun, and it's probably really hard a lot of days. What do you do kind of, and I ask this to all of the rescue people, what do you do for compassion fatigue and kind of try to step back some days? I know, it's probably really overwhelming to, have to pass on them, or if one passes away, or something doesn't work out with a micro sanctuary, there's a lot of stress that goes. But how do you kind of deal with the compassion fatigue of all this too?
That's such a great question. I think that's something that even when like people come to us for advice of like, hey, we want to maybe do rescue or do something, like I have a little pamphlet that I made about that, but it's like, 90% logistics, but then 10% really being like, okay, but you have to figure out self-care, because that is so important when it comes to rescue and like longevity of being in rescue. I think we do a couple of different things. One is when a pig passes, like after we've rescued them and maybe, they've been at their forever home for X amount of years and they end up passing or something happens with the case, we do stuff to grieve. So we'll light candles, we'll have special meetings where we like really talk to each other and like support each other through those times. Something physical like lighting a candle, I think really helps the grieving process, because you're able to add like some sort of like ritual into that, that we're like kind of familiar with when you think about like traditional funerals or something like that. And then another thing that we try to do is celebrate the milestones. And I think it sounds a little silly, right? Because we're dealing with so much life or death, and then we talk about, having a party. It seems weird, but to us, I think it's really important to celebrate those milestones, because it just is a moment to breathe and to be happy. Because we see so much, we're seeing, being like the first responders on a case, we're seeing just the worst of each situation over and over and over again. So when we hit those milestones, to take a moment to breathe, I think that is actually doing something for our souls, where it's going to help us in the long run to, be able to keep going, because we've processed, when we need to grieve, and we've celebrated where we can celebrate. And just adding those types of things, like life type stuff, into rescue, I think has helped us a tremendous amount.
Yeah, I was literally going to say, like, celebrating the good is so important. Obviously, with a Cancer Foundation for Animals, it's a lot more sadness than goodness, unfortunately. So key. You got it right, April. That's for sure.
Thank you.
And I know you guys are vegan, which I think is so important too. I have learned so much on this podcast that I have stopped eating meat, which, if you've listened to past podcasts about the livestock auctions and the animal investigations that my friends do, you will realize that it is not just a problem for the animals, but for us. The water runoff from these disgusting farms and what is happening to the animals inside there is devastating. I've also had people say that they can't listen to my podcast because I do expose these things, and the investigators really tell us what's going on in there, because a lot of times people cannot go in there to see what's going on. So kudos to you guys. I'm going to cry. Pigs are just amazing. And like growing up with them, I realized like how important the work that you do is. They're just the smartest animals. And they really latch on to their humans, and they have emotions even bigger than dogs, in my opinion. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the work you do. I can't wait to see you celebrate 10 years, because you're about to celebrate 10 years. And by then, I think you're going to be at 6,000 pigs, which would be amazing. But thank you guys for all you do. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was
Yeah,
wonderful.
thank you so much. Yeah, and for all you do too, because it's really important. There's so many aspects to rescue, so we appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you. Chicagoland Pig Rescue. Here's their website, everybody. Amazing guests, April and Phoebe. Again, you know, I can't get through a podcast without crying. I love pigs so much. They do amazing work, and I love reading about everything they do. Go to their website, check out all of these pigs they've saved, follow them on social media. Supporting sponsors, you're up. Thank you to our supporting sponsors. On the corner of Montrose and Troy in Chicago's Irving Park neighborhood, you'll find a hidden gem known as Templestowe Pub. They have a great selection of local draft beers, and the Malort is always flowing. Oh no. Join us for a charity bingo event or a tap takeover with a local brewery. Don't want to leave your dog at home? All good, bring them along. Whether you're throwing darts or playing a banger on the jukebox, you're guaranteed to have an awesome time. So head on over to 3135 West Montrose and look for the old style sign. The Canine PT is Chicago's highest rated dog physical therapy clinic, and they're dedicated to enhancing the lives of your four-legged companions as they age or when recovering from an injury. Give the gift of pain relief to your furry friend. They also offer a discount for rescue dogs. For more information, visit thecaninept.com. Intuitive animal behavior dog training, positive reinforcement, force-free and fear-free training solutions for every dog. Jenna offers individualized training, behavioral boarding, shelter support, and positive reinforcement board and train services. Creating an environment that is happy and healthy for your pets is so important. For more information, go to intuitiveanimalbehavior.com. Thank you so much to all our sponsors. I really appreciate it. Support those businesses. I'll see you next week.